Okay, good morning. It's a SIG Node CI group. It's March 17th, 2021. Welcome, everybody. Today, I think we can start with the agenda item, and then we can go into triage. Ilana, do you want to kick it on? Do you want to share your screen, or you want me to share?
You can go ahead. We can switch if we need to.
Oh, I think Francesco has output difficulties with the headphones. Ilana, are you fine?
I think so. I put in earbuds. Can you hear me?
I can hear you well.
Okay, great. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I think it's just his audio. So I threw something on the agenda here. The first item is to talk about what's going on with the node pre-submit tests. And this was prompted from a discussion with Ben, who I pinged. He said he might be able to make it today. But we can maybe discuss this last because I'm hoping to see if he might be able to make it.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you want to postpone it?
Yeah, basically the TLDR of this one is that Node had agreed some time ago, like last year, that we wanted to add cryo as a pre-submit test. So like for when we kind of move away from just doing the Docker shim stuff, we want to have like one container D pre-submit, one cryo pre-submit, and how we want to like do that in the long run, like if those are going to be separate jobs or one job in the same cluster but with different nodes, like I don't know the exact details of how we're going to end up doing that. I think that's not really very easy right now. So basically there was, we should discuss this at, the SIG Node CI meeting next week. And yeah, so we will see if Ben can make it. It's still waiting on like a final approval. So I think I pinged Aaron about that as well. But Ben is cool with adding the job in the interim. And we're going to start with adding it as a like a pre-submit that doesn't report but gets run, and then once we've got a bunch of data, then we will add it as one that shows up and is like skippable, and then hopefully after that has good data, then we'll add it as required because we've seen people breaking cryo. So that's that. But yeah, Ben had some really great ideas. We chatted last week about what we should do sort of with pre-submits and sort of the future of pre-submit tests and how like we want to have pretty strict criteria in terms of what we're introducing as pre-submits. So I think that we meet the bar here, but he had some really good discussion points. So.
And we're still running Docker shim as a pre-submit, not container D.
I think so, yeah. There might be like some container D tests, but I'm not sure what the details are.
Okay. Yeah, there is one long-standing item to understand which runtimes we're running tests. Like, is there a way to just look at tests and know which runtime it's running, besides looking into test definition and
yeah. Well, and the other thing is, on the flip side, I think that like Ben said, one of the things that we should be looking at doing is trying to like remove as much of the like implementation details as possible from the test name. Because for example, I think we have some E2E, which is like blah blah pre-submit Ubuntu container D node, something like that. And of course, the problem is then, if you have that stuff in the name, then people come back and ask, well, you're doing Ubuntu. What about, what about Debian? What about Fedora? You're doing container D. What about cryo? What about like this? What about that? So I think there's some suggestion of like, maybe it's like runtime 1, runtime 2. So people don't like pester us in terms of, well, what about my particular distro or container runtime or that kind of thing. The goal is to demonstrate that, the pre-submits are running on like multiple CRIs and not necessarily that it's like this particular CRI or that the pre-submits mean anything about like supportability. So.
Okay. Are those two issues also related to that?
I don't think so. I'm not sure what the other two are. I don't know if I added those.
Who added these issues?
You should click on them. There might be comments on them.
Yeah, this one is we discussed a long time ago. Oh yeah, you just added the agenda.
I added that probably last week because you weren't here, so we weren't sure. Oh, I think this one was on the agenda for last week, but you weren't here and you were assigned, so we punted it to this week.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we need to understand what we want to do. Like, do we want to have not features or just features? Because like it doesn't make sense to have.
So actually, that's a really great question. As I don't know what's using Node feature right now for the liveness probe stuff. I ended up using feature, not Node feature, because that way I could use the pre-existing alpha jobs to test them. Because the Node alpha job was like broken when I was trying to use it, and so I was like, I just want this to go into the regular alpha test suite. So and in order to do that, I just used feature. I would be totally fine with saying, let's get rid of all the weird Node specific things and roll our alpha tests into the like alpha tests that run on every PR, because I think that might be a better way to do it. But
yeah,
and also less maintenance.
Yeah, this specific issue was about duplication of not feature and not alpha feature. So like we've been like for every feature we had two tags, like not feature foo and like not alpha feature foo. And then when you graduate from alpha, you just remove one of the tags. So the idea was to just have feature foo and then alpha tag as a separate yeah.
We also have like a min kubelet version tag now, so like at least for the conformance tests. So I'm not sure how that might sort of like feature in here, but like I don't actually know how many like Node alpha features and Node features do we have currently.
Yeah, I remember we just added recently one. I don't remember which one, but I was commenting on PR. Yeah, but I agree. We have less and less features. I don't even know what the idea of features was. Like, my initial thought was that all the features, like whenever you have a feature tag, there was a job that was enabling all the features, and that's why we've been running them separately. So there were like jobs that enable all alpha features, all beta features, and like just enable all features. But now all features are enabled by default. So if you're out of beta, and even in beta, you don't need to enable anything explicitly. So that makes feature tag a little bit irrelevant. And it's unclear whether you want to use feature tag once you graduated, because like we graduated runtime class, and do you need to keep feature tag for runtime class because there is no feature flag any longer? Like
from what I've seen, feature things, they get removed as things graduate. So like right now, I think I'm pretty sure that feature is skipped in everything other than the alpha tests. So I think like once things become not alpha, we're supposed to remove those from the tests.
Maybe, I don't know. There is still beta, right? So beta, you can disable it. And some people test that you can disable it. And we didn't test that we can disable it for exact crop timeouts.
Yeah, well, if you accidentally remove the feature flag, maybe that's on you. But yeah, I don't know exactly what we're going to do with this. I mean, we're in the right meeting to make a decision.
Yeah, I think what I can do is to just list all the
tags we need to list them all and make decisions.
Then yeah, it will be a very good first step. Okay, let me put action item on myself. Which one is that? 289. Okay, on this one. Yeah, this is still on me. I just didn't have time, so it's very trivial. Who put it on agenda? You just put it out of.
It might have been me because we went over it last week and you weren't here, so we weren't sure what to do with it. Is this something that we could put like a help wanted on, or are you going to do it? Because you said it's pretty trivial.
So it may be harder to explain what to do than just do it, because I mean you basically need to take a test and make it such that it doesn't use any Linux specific features and doesn't test it like it does a pod is scheduled with the runtime class, but doesn't test that it's actually running. So yeah, it's just copy paste and like cleaning up a little bit. So it will be really hard to explain, I think. Okay, I will follow up. Yeah, I just kept it on the back burner.
Cool.
Do you know?
So I guess I should. I don't know if
it?
you watched the recording. I should catch you up on what we did last week. We went through the whole board, and every single thing on there we either closed or like assigned someone or like pinged.
Cool. Okay. I don't think recordings are available that fast. Derek, tip, you froze. Derek sometimes delay in uploading recordings. So, oh, you put it here because you didn't know what to do with this item. Okay.
Yeah, we didn't know what to do with that one because it was
Okay.
assigned to you and you weren't there. So everything else we dealt with
Okay, yeah,
as best as we could.
Okay, Ben is not here.
Yeah, I think we can just table that maybe to either another meeting or when Ben's available. So,
So yeah, I added all the items today on the board and put them in the right columns. Let's see. Yeah, we're growing on this column. Do you know when the test freeze for 121?
That's a great question. I think it's next Friday, but let me confirm that.
So we still need to ping people about this OGTM PRs because they're likely test related.
Are all of them? Do they have the ones that need approver? Do they have milestones set? It looks like mostly no. We need to determine if like we want them in 121 or not. So maybe we could do that today. Make a call for like in or out. Because like Clayton had left a comment on this one about whether or not we should be doing this, and this might be a bug that we're trying to patch over.
Yeah, it's OGTM by somebody. Yeah, might yes.
Oh, I lied. Test freeze is not next Friday. Test freeze is next Wednesday, so the 24th.
Okay. Yeah, I think we definitely want this one. This is easy, I think. Can you do milestones, or you need to?
I can do milestones. Yeah, just tell me which ones. So the E2E memory manager test we think is in.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I will ping Normal to approve it.
Let me put a comment. Milestone B121 discussed at, what's today's meeting? 2021-03-17 Node CI meeting or test freeze.
Yeah, I think this one is just a comment change. So let's also take it. It's from Daniel, so assuming he knows what.
Oh, Hashdan, yeah. That was just a comment change. I think we need like a top level approver for that one or something like that. Okay, so I'll put a milestone on that one.
And this is unclear because Teal has a question from Clayton.
Yeah, there's a Clayton question.
Yeah.
I feel like I may have also seen, I don't think this is the only.
It's also do waiting on another here.
There's like a couple of these sorts of tests where like there's these one-line changes that I've seen like for reviews that I'm kind of like, I don't know if this should be considered for inclusion in test freeze or not. Because one line can sometimes be very subtle.
Yeah, we still have a PR in SIG Node main board where somebody removed an empty if block that was added by Derek a long time ago. So it was an if block and a long comment, and nobody knows that this comment is actually needed.
Yeah.
Something about checkpointing, I remember.
So do we want to make sure that we have reviewers assigned to all of the review in process ones? or
Yep.
review in progress. I think most of them have people, although maybe
How
if
do you do assign?
it's no assignee, I think.
No. Oh, like
Oh, like-
no.
Yeah, and it's
like this?
assignee. Yeah, with another E. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Do. Jenkins and not tests. Yeah, he broke something. Does anybody wants to see or like review this removal?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay. You need to remind me. Okay. Can you remind me on your alias?
It's CYP.
Oh, why? Okay.
Yeah.
Here you go. And do I need to archive it? Archive from there.
Yeah, I can archive it on the other board.
Okay.
For some reason, there's not like a handy shortcut.
Yeah. Move pod client outside of remove usage of pod client. Another refactoring. Yeah, I think it's refactoring, so it's not considered to be 121. I mean, we can, but we don't have to.
Yeah, I'd say this one's probably backlog.
Okay.
And I will archive this from the SIG Node board.
Anybody want to look at refactoring PR?
I do, but I have a question. Is up to us to, I mean, it's expected to us for being node to, looks good to me. I mean, we are not the approver for that. It's SIG testing, right?
It's like shared. So sometimes we might not have enough approval powers, but if they're just touching stuff under like the node folders, we do have enough approval powers. So it depends on what they're touching.
Okay, but anyway, I want to have a look. I have been playing in this area, and so yeah, I want to have a look.
By the way, did you get your membership?
Yes, I did.
Cool. Now I can assign.
FRO
Oh,
M.
for mine, yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
It's exciting. Now it's going to work. Last week, the bot
Wait
kept
for
yelling
it.
at me.
Wait for it.
Slow boat.
It's just, you know, it's overburdened right now. It's got a lot going on.
Yeah. Okay. We trust it works. And then restart Google Flag. We already reviewed this one, right? Is it new one?
No, it's an old one. It's a stale stuff.
And it doesn't have triage or a priority on it.
Was it reopened? Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked with Rata. Rodrigo is the one that is bringing this, so I'll talk with him again. Before we triage this.
So you don't want to triage it?
Yeah, I think we can hold this again. I'll talk with another one to enable it. Not sure if it makes sense to bring this back, but Thanks.
Okay, and Elana, you need to archive it from there.
Already archived, it looks like.
Thank you.
The icons look almost
Yeah.
identical.
GC alpha. I mean,
Yeah, the SCTP is almost broke, so you're skipping for this board. It just need approval.
wait, it doesn't have LGTM, right?
Nope.
Why do we need to skip them? Do you have any?
Like they are being flaky, but that's expected. I have the history. I put the history here as a comment.
Yeah, can you please put the history? I can review it. It seems to be. Just need some history.
Okay.
And it's quite aligned with what I want to do with listing all the tags. See, we have a feature, and I wonder whether we need this feature to be actually there. I mean, a tag. Okay. I think seems to be a first-time contributor. Or just a constant?
They just, yeah, factored out test into a constant, it looks like.
Fake pod name. Why is the image? Sometimes it's image, sometimes it's ID.
Yeah, I think we should close this because sometimes
Okay.
it's image and sometimes it's ID.
Okay, I need to start with thank you for the UPR. Okay. Here's one. Oh, it's yeah. You just need to
That
move
one's in
here
progress.
first. Yeah, it's not an issue. Right, that focus on.
That's the same stuff, Sergey. I split this in 3 PRs, so they're in the same.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll take a look this later.
Okay. Okay. So we triage these items. Any other topics for today? Do we want to discuss more about pre-submits?
Do we also want to look at anything that does have an assignee, or sorry, anything that does have an assignee, but the assignee is like, basically my worry is the people who are like, oh, the bot told me to assign Derek, and then Derek will not look at it in any amount of time.
Oh, yeah, we might.
Because he's got bigger fish to fry. I'm sure I saw at least like one of those. That one
Tell
looks
me.
like it's got Murnal assigned, maybe. I don't know if we should look at that one.
Yes, that was me, and that was Murnal indeed.
It's like 9 of them, so let me open all of them pretty quickly. Instead of hover mouse over. Oh yeah, one there.
So we looked at that one, so we could skip this.
Okay. Oh, we didn't assign anything.
And same with that one.
Oh, it's still waiting for it to be assigned.
I got the mail too.
Good. We can't rely on the bot, apparently.
Okay, so if you got the mail, it's fine. We can. Yeah, it's on now. Thank you.
This is one-liner, by the way, just for the record.
Yeah, we can.
Two-liner, my bad.
Two-liner.
Okay,
It's got
empty
some
line.
white space. Yeah, one of the lines is empty.
Okay, I can review. What I want to review is like, is there actually a timeout there? And if there is a timeout, it's fine.
This one looks like a storage thing, given the assignees.
Wait, this is test, right? Yeah, I think we can punt it as a storage.
Do we want to mark this one as SIG storage? Because it doesn't have the label right now.
Yep. Archive. Test which file changed. Yeah, it has Brunel and Derek. Perfect.
Yeah, I don't know if they are the right reviewers for this. What is this thingy? This is a unit test change, I think.
Yeah, should be.
I think this one's on the main board. And Liggets looked at it. Oh, it's got to sleep. Don't like that. That's how you fix all race conditions. Just add sleeps.
Yeah. Anybody wants to take a look?
I
I
can
don't
take a look
think-
at this one.
Okay. A probe test. Yeah, Derek is. I can assign it to myself. I was.
Yeah, that would be great. I think I reported this one, so.
Yeah, I think he knew. Like, right? I think there is a heavy reliance on timing, and the end-to-end environment is not known for being very slow.
We
Yeah,
talked
we
about
looked at
this
that,
one.
and yeah, empty euro. I know there's a like he contributes to everywhere. Yeah, this is not needed.
Oh, I reviewed this one.
Okay.
And I was just like, what is going on here? I guess I'm getting the, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Get one for free.
At least if it's assigned to me, I'll actually be able to find it in my GitHub notifications.
Yeah, you're already a hero because of instrumentation. I think, yeah.
Love it. Go SIG instrumentation.
Yeah, thank you for suggesting. I think we corrected a couple issues. Okay. If no more topics, let's switch gears and go into triaging of main board.
Actually, give me 1 second. I'm not heard. Oh, I just heard from Ben. So.
Okay.
Uh.
Oh, is it Ben? SIG testing. Who is
Hello.
SIG testing?
Ben, you're here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. Pre-submits. It's on the agenda.
So, Ilana, you said that SIG Node a year ago decided to do cryo as well for pre-submits.
Yeah, I think if you scroll down, I have a comment even like linking to the agenda dates where we talked about this. But basically, like there had been a bunch of stuff where like people had got stuff in that broke CI. So SIG first cryo. So like Node decided let's add a cryo pre-submit job, but then didn't do it until now. So we went back and did this, and I think Aaron, I just pinged him about it. So because we need another approver for this one. So yes, if you keep scrolling, yeah, there's the links to the notes. So I added that to this week's agenda. I linked the old agenda notes where we made the meeting. Yeah, there was like a thing that needed to get fixed. And then I think this one has just been kind of sitting. But Ben and I had a long discussion about like, what do we do about pre-submit tests and who owns them and that kind of thing. So now Ben is here and can talk to more people than just me.
Hey, yeah. So where do I start? So
At the very
one-
beginning.
so something we've been working on sort of across SIGs is reducing the amount of pre-submits. Actually, we had a lot. They're flaky. Every pre-submit we have, we can't really like share builds. So in like periodic jobs, typically there's a continuous build that uploads builds, and then all other tests just consume that build and pick that up instead of cloning the repo and building. In pre-submit though, whatever you need to run the tests, we have to build, and that for E2Es that looks like building pretty much everything. So that is a lot of extra load because we're doing that on every push to every PR in the repo. We already have something like 13 that we're running still, and we're trying to cut that down. So today there is no written policy for this, and in fact, anyone that owns any config directory for Prow can just like make a pre-submit for any repo and make it always run in blocking. Required for merge. That's something we really don't want going forward, and we are trying to identify who owns this and how can we establish policy for that probably in the next quarter or two. We've known we need to do this. In the meantime, though, the general direction we're looking for is deduplicating things as much as possible and trying to cut down on times. Where possible, we also want to prefer things that people can realistically run themselves. If it's going to block their PR, we'd like them to be able to actually invoke this. Node E2E is kind of a bit of a Node E2E and scale or something of a special case where we know we're getting some signal there, but maybe someone doesn't actually have credit to spin up a whole bunch of cloud VMs for these tests. But pretty much everywhere else, we're looking for like unit tests or like kind clusters or something that like we can ask a contributor to debug, and we want them to run at least under an hour. We would really like 30 minutes if we can get it, because the time that these take to run affects the possible merge rate we can get. If there's even one flake, we have to run them again. Now we're already looking at 2 hours just to validate one PR. So the longer it gets, the much worse this get, and any long pre-submit causes problem. So what I asked with this is for the long term, if we can, it would be great if we could turn this into one pull Kubernetes node E2E that runs in different VMs in parallel with different configurations covering whatever we want to cover. I imagine in the future that includes things like C groups v2. Maybe we want to cover C run instead of just run C. And to do that, though, we don't want to keep adding like a new job that goes and builds. And instead, what we should be able to do is build the Node EDU runner and the kubelet and any components we need once per push, and then fan out to in remote VMs. The other thing we can do here is we're trying to avoid sort of saying, oh yes, we test like this thing, because what we're really doing is we're testing Kubernetes, and the moment we start advertising like, oh, we test, I don't know, Calico, then Cilium's going to come and say, wait, why aren't we in pre-submit? So we want to avoid people looking at this as like, oh, we're testing compatibility with these. We can't test like the full matrix of these things, the release versions, all of the C*I interfaces. We just want to make sure that we test like enough of these things that we're confident in the Kubernetes side of them. So similarly, we're looking to clean up any naming in the future so that we're not saying like, right now we have pull Kubernetes E2E GCE Ubuntu containerd, which is a mouthful and also suggests that we're testing Ubuntu and containerd, whereas those are just like implementation details. We don't care that Kubernetes works on Ubuntu in every PR. We're using Ubuntu because it was the easiest way to get a cloud EVM where we could install arbitrary versions of CRI so we could have newer versions instead of whatever cost happens to be shipping right now. But right, because we let that name in, now anyone that sees a PR thinks, oh, we're testing Ubuntu. So we'd like to get to the same point with the CRIs. We don't want people thinking like, I don't know, we're testing like containerd at head. We're not doing their CI for them. We are using these things to make sure that the kubelet side of the CRI is in good shape. So the other benefit from merging these jobs down is that it gives us a clean answer to dropping all of the like dependencies out of the test names.
Yeah, I talked about that a little bit earlier in the meeting before you joined, and I suggested like similarly, the goal here is not like we have, containerd and cryo and all of the other container runtimes we'd ever want to support we throw in here. It's more like we have runtime 1 and runtime 2, and that like that way between, CRI 1 and CRI 2, this we at least like confirm that, the CRI works with multiple runtimes and it's not just like being tested for the quirks of just one. So,
right. And we also,
the naming thing should be pretty easy to fix, hopefully.
We also want to be very clear that like the versions of these things we run are totally at the discretion of the SIG that needs to test these things. And we're not going to do something like, oh no, we also need to run like a dependency at head because what if we break them under their development or something like that? Like that's their problem, vendor extensions, they should deal with that. We really don't want the test matrix of like all the CSI, CNI, CRI. But we obviously, like I said, we definitely want to get some of these things running so that we don't just find out that like, oh, it only works here. We've found that sort of thing before, like when we only had KubeUp and pre-submit, we've found E2E tests that like only work if you have firewall rules that KubeUp generates. Like we don't want to get into that sort of situation. So in the meantime, I've said, let's just go ahead and merge the cryo one so we can make sure we're getting that coverage. But for like the desired end state, it would be really great if we could merge these down and if we can get the different VMs concurrent as well, so we can keep the test time down as we add these in the future for different coverage scenarios we need. We've had a pretty big push to do this for some of the other SIG jobs, but there's still definitely more to do there. Like I said, we still have something like 12 or 13 jobs that run on every PR and are actually required. It's a lot.
So your suggestion is to go ahead with this PR and then like, I mean, I'm trying to understand what will motivate work to do this cleanup and make sure that we run like single end-to-end tests with both runtimes.
So I'm not sure how straightforward it's going to be to get the Node E2E runner to a place where you don't have all of the parameters going into it, assuming that all the VMs are homogeneous. in terms of like runtime. Typically the jobs I see today do have details like, oh, I'm using containerd in this node E2E run. Ideally, we could get to a point where that's a detail of any particular VM that we're running the suite with, and we can run multiple of them. But because I'm not sure how much work that's going to take, I don't want to say like, oh, we have to do that now. Further, we don't actually have written policy for pre-submit. There are a handful of people like me or Aaron that are kind of running around keeping tabs on what's going on in Kubernetes pre-submit and saying, hey, wait a sec, don't add this flaky thing to directly to pre-submit or something like that. But we want to get to a place where there is some official policy and even some enforcement to sort of prevent like completely arbitrary things being added or like tests that are extremely slow or something like that. We have this for release blocking jobs. We never got it in place for pre-submit. So since there isn't anything in pre-submit, it's not reasonable for us to say like, oh, here's our demands for getting this pre-submit. This seems like clearly valuable signal. So I'd like to say, let's go ahead and merge it. We have something that we know we can run and get that signal now. But we're sort of asking to head things into this state down the line. And we will plan to try to create some concrete policy. And we haven't figured out who definitely owns this yet, but a few of us have started thinking about like, what have we been doing ad hoc to get things to a better place? And these things are the types of things we're looking for to try to get things into a better place. Like less different jobs that we're running where possible and less overall runtime, like wall clock time, because that affects merge rate and like developer workflow, sitting around waiting for tests. And
so on the node side, in terms of like follow-up actions we want to take as a result of this, I think probably like, I mean, to me, there's like there's an obvious two. One is to rename the jobs to like take the specific platforms out of the job names. And two would be to like figure out some sort of long-term strategy to only have one node E2E pre-submit. Does that make sense? Is there other stuff that we need to do?
I think that would be it. I might even suggest that like it would be also pretty reasonable to punt the renaming for bringing it down to one resubmit. It's actually rather painful dance to rename blocking pre-submit jobs because they need to have a status on all of the PRs. So like, for example, when we switched off of Bazel, we actually started running a non-Bazel unit test job for a bit and just reporting, but not blocking on it. And then switched which one was blocking and then span down the other one. So it's kind of like lengthy, noisy process. There's not a really, there is a manual way that we can have someone with like a token with sufficient privileges on GitHub, like relabel all the statuses for the existing ones to a new name or something like that. But it is like manual toil and maybe not strictly necessary. It's more of a long-term state. I mean, for example, the Ubuntu containerd thing has been around for I think a couple release cycles now. We should clean that up. But where we actually have two different things and we need to understand the difference for now, I think it's fine. Just more of an end goal that when we're able to fold these back together, then we won't obviously, we don't need to name it full Kubernetes node E2E containerd cryo or something like that. The other thing is people have to type these for retest, and it'd be great if we could stop making them like 200 characters long.
They have to type them. I just copy paste them.
Sure.
That's why the bot gives me such a helpful comment with all the commands that I need to run. Your test failed. Run this.
So, but I mean, in the short term, do we need to like? I mean, we also want to run containerd tests. Like, do you like run 3 runtimes for now and then figuring out long-term plan?
We are already, I think, running containerd tests. So.
I thought we were running Docker shim, but
we're running Docker shim, and like we also have the Ubuntu containerd tests.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like, so you know, we'll be in a place where we have 3 for a while. It'll be helpful when we can fold those down. We've also done similar things with other things where they maybe don't necessarily need all these different coverage. Like we've talked to scalability and said like, okay, you have n different scale pre-submits. Can we like, what's the one you really need to be in pre-submit? Because we can also get really good coverage on most of these things and post-submit. It's actually much easier to monitor. You don't have the pre-submit's really noisy with like PRs that don't even build. So for like most testing that we're doing in Kubernetes, we're not expecting it to be in pre-submit. We're expecting things that are like relatively quick, very high signal ratio, ideally things that contributors can run themselves where possible, that like, you know, things like static analysis that like, if we ran it in post-submit would be failing all the time and give us value. Whereas like some of the more like esoteric features like GPU support, they may or may not like need to be in pre-submit. That's probably not code we're touching super often.
So I put some question marks in terms of time frame. Ben, like in terms of release cycle, what would be a reasonable time to target trying to get this done by? Like, is this next release? Is this the release after? It's not this release.
Well, I don't think anyone can actually set like a hard requirement on this sort of thing. Right?
Oh yeah, when are we thinking about, like, for example, you know, I guess there's kind of a dependency on like having a pre-submit policy.
So
when's that targeted at?
Tentatively, Aaron and I have been sort of drafting a like, what would, like, does this even make sense? What would it look like? And starting to figure out like, who would we need to go talk to about this? I think that's going to be like next release cycle. Like no guarantees yet, but that's sort of what we're pretty strongly planning to do.
I put a maybe.
But I think we'd also, you know, want to be pretty light-handed with existing stuff. It'd be much more likely to apply to someone trying to add a new thing. And that's sort of what happened with release policies. We didn't immediately like drop stuff that wasn't meeting the requirements. It would be great to do this, you know, as
You
soon as
gotta have
possible,
carrots and sticks.
but
yeah, that makes sense.
I think you know, right now is not a reasonable time for anyone to do this. I would love to see some work towards this by like the next test freeze, like a full cycle from now. But especially given that we may not even have policy fully in place, it's understandable if it takes a bit longer than that.
Cool. I think that's probably all we need. Sergey, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I mean, since Ben is here, like, is there any work plan to like discuss to kind of distinguish which end-to-end to run and which don't run, or at least like which pre-submits to run? So maybe like if it's like one line change of like some type of fix, then don't run all this pre-submits, or like heavy pre-submits at least.
Yeah, so that's actually been a tricky ongoing thing. One of the things that tends to drive it right now is just like speed and reliability. So like with the main E2E suite, we have tests that are tagged as flaky, and we still run those somewhere in CI, but that's something that we're going to exclude in pre-submit. So we have some kind of rules around that. The other thing that usually happens though is that outside of things that are known to be flaky or extremely slow, we just sort of run everything and then keep an eye on the test times. And when we see that they're going up, kind of look into that and address it. So for example, SIG storage had a lot of E2E tests, and the test time being taken by them overall was becoming a significant fraction of pre-submit. So we like worked with them to identify what they thought were like the most important ones, and to split some of the rest off into a separate test suite that they run sometimes, like when they're particularly working on storage stuff. So something like that may also make sense. It's a bit difficult to say as like a blanket policy. It's kind of like the SIGs are going to know best, like, okay, when I'm testing kubelet, I really, really, really want to know that this thing works. But maybe there's other feature is not high traffic. Generally, what we're looking for with things in pre-submits in terms of like what needs to be in submit, what needs to be in pre-submit is something where when it's only in post-submit and it's in a release blocking job, we're constantly seeing the release blocking job go red because of bad PRs. So an example that would be compiling for other platforms. At one point, we didn't have this in pre-submit because the cross build is really, really, really expensive to run. So we wound up doing was adding our own linter tool that checks the code type checks for all platforms. So like the Go parses it and things. And that was something like that has to be in pre-submit because it is really frequent that someone makes a PR that like doesn't compile on Windows anymore or something, because they like added something to an interface and only implemented on Linux. So something like that where we have clear signal that like we didn't have this in pre-submit and we have a quality like meets all the requirements release blocking job, and the release blocking job is not stable because PRs keep coming through that break it, then we need a pre-submit. Otherwise, we'd probably actually, for most things, default to like, it doesn't need to be in pre-submit, get out of pre-submit, stop relying on pre-submit, add a periodic job, add alerting to your dashboard, and if something breaks, push a fix. Hopefully it's not frequent, but if it's a really frequent thing, then it would be better off if we caught it in pre-submit. Obviously, we could just put everything in pre-submit and then nothing would ever break, but we'd also never merge anything.
Okay, thank you for clarification. Okay, then I see that PR is merged, so we good on that front. Okay. Well, I think we have an action item to determine this long-term plan. So yeah, so do we want to do proactively? Ilana, do you think we have energy to do proactively, like merging this end-to-ends?
I will sync with my team in terms of what like resources we have to throw at this, because I know Harshal indicated like willingness and interest to try to like, for example, merge all of the container D and cryo tests into one cluster. It just wasn't something that we could do like super immediately.
Okay, yeah, I'll also ask around, but let's see if you have somebody to work on it. Maybe you need to do it proactively. So you'll help everybody in their PRs and PRs velocity. Anyway, okay. I think we out of agenda items and out of time. So maybe we can do triage of product issues later. Are you fine with that?
Yeah, we can do it asynchronously.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. Bye.
Bye, folks.
Bye, folks.